In this video, I want to go over some keyboard shortcuts that you may find useful when working with Excel. So first, let's zoom in. And the first keyboard shortcut that we're going to discuss is the copy and paste feature. So let's say if we enter the number 25 into cell B2. Now, to copy it, press the Control button, hold it down, and then press C. So Control C will help you to, it'll allow you to copy a cell, and then to paste it, hold down Control and press V. And so that's how you can paste something that you've copied. Now, let's say if we want to copy a column of numbers. So let's highlight these 4 numbers and then press Control C and then highlight another cell, Control V. Thus, we can paste that information somewhere else in this workbook. So that's how you could use the copy and paste feature of Excel with a few keyboard shortcuts. The next one is Control P. If you press that, this will allow you to print the workbook. Now the next one is Control S, and it allows you to save your work. So you get the Save As function. And then the next keyboard shortcut is Control W, which allows you to save your work to whatever the name of this workbook is. In this case, this is book 14. So Control W is to save your work. Control S is to save as, if you want to name it, give it a particular name. Now let's say if we have John in a cell and we want to delete the information in the cell. A simple way to do that is the delete button. But if for some reason you have a keyboard that don't have a delete button, you could press Control D, and that's another way in which you could delete it, but the delete button is a lot easier. Now let's type in a few things. Let's say we have Sally, Jason, 24, I put 25. Now let's say if we want to undo what we just did, type in Control and then Z. It'll undo the last information that you put into, or the information you put into the last cell. If you type in Control Z again, it's going to delete, it's going to undo what you just did. Now, redo, if you want to do that, type in Control Y, and it will redo whatever you put in into the last cell. So that's how you can use the undo and the redo feature. So remember, Control Z is to undo, and Control Y is to redo your last work. Now, the next button we're going to talk about is Control A. Control A allows you to select everything. So let's say if we had nothing here and we type in Control A, we can select the entire board. But let's say if we have, a few things. If I type in Control A, well, it still selects everything. Here, if I type in or if I highlight just one cell and then I type in Control A, it only selects just those 4 names. And so Control A is the select all feature that is useful in Excel. Now, next up we have Control R. Control R will allow you to copy whatever is on the left of the cell that you select. So I can copy Macy, I can copy John, I can copy Susan or Kristen without actually clicking Control C on the cells on the left. If I just type in Control R, it'll automatically look at whatever's on the left and copy it. It doesn't work if you try to go to the left side of the cell that you want to copy. You have to be on the right side. So let's say if I have 15, if I try to copy it here, Control R, it doesn't work. But to the right of it, it does. Now the next shortcut key that we're going to go over is very similar to the last one, but instead of copying a cell on the left, it's going to allow us to copy the contents of a cell above the cell that we highlight. And so what you need to do is type in Control and then the single quotation mark. And you could copy the cell above. So Control and then a single quotation mark, not a comma, and it will work. So this button is to the left of the Enter button on my keyboard. It's basically 2 buttons to the right from the L button. So that's where you could find it. And so that's how you can copy a cell that is above the cell that you want to highlight. So now let's move on to our next topic. So let's say if we want to bold the word Macy. All you got to do is type in Control B and then it's going to bold. If you type in Control B again, it'll remove the bold feature. So Control B and then Control B. Now another way in which you can get the same result is if you type in Control 2. And if you type in Control 2 again, it'll remove the bold feature. Now, to italicize a word, type in Control I. And then if you type in Control I again, it disappears. Or you could do Control 3 and it has the same effect. So type in Control 3 again, it'll remove the italicized feature. Now the next one is to underline a word. So if you type in Control U, it's going to underline it. And then type in Control U again, it'll remove the underline from the word Macy. Or you can type in Control 4 and it will have the same effect. Now let's go to Susan. If you press Control 5, you could put a line through the word. And if you press Control 5 again, you could remove that line. So that's another cool feature of Excel. Now, if you press Control and then the forward button, it'll take you all the way to the left of the workbook. And then if you type in Control and the left button, it will take you all the way to the left. So you can go all the way to the right or all the way to the left. If you type in Control down, it'll take you to a cell that's above 1 million. And if you type in Control up, you'll go back to 1. Or you can go back to 1,048,576. And so you could jump from one end of the workbook to another end using the Control button and the directional pad. Now something else that we can do is we can add a line break. So for example, let's say if we want to type in John Smith, but if you want to go down, it'll take you to the next cell. If you press Enter, it will take you to the next cell. But if you press Alt, A-L-T, and then Enter, you'll create a line break, and then you could type in Smith. And so as you can see, you have an expanded cell with the 2 words John Smith. And so that's how you can add a line break to Excel. Now the next button is Control N. And so that creates a new workbook, which is very useful. Now the next thing that we can do is type in Control O. Let's do that again, Control O, and it's going to basically allow you to open a file in Excel. So that's something else that you can do. Now let's say we have a column with a person's first name and last name. So let me write a few names. And let me write one more. Let's say Jason Wilson. Now, if I type in John and then Kelly, well, that didn't work. let's undo that. Okay, that did. But what I want to show you is, all right, let me get rid of this. If you try to highlight these two and then expand it, it's not going to work. Like, you won't get the first names of everyone else. But what you could do is use the flash fill feature. And so let's say if you highlight these two cells and then press Ctrl E. I guess it didn't see the pattern that I was looking for. Let's try that again. Ctrl E. Now it did. So I guess you have to highlight one cell instead of two. So if I highlight Kelly and type in Ctrl E, it recognized the pattern. So now let's do the same with the last name. So let's highlight Smith and then Ctrl E. And notice that it filled the last names of these individuals in that column. And so Ctrl E allows you to use the flash fill feature. So let's do that again. This time I'm going to start with John. So Ctrl E, and then there you go. Now let's type in Ctrl F. So this will bring up the find feature in Excel. And so let's find Kelly. And then let's click Find All. And as you can see, we have different options. We have Kelly Williams, which is highlighted here. If we type Kelly, we can see she's in cell E5, and there's another Kelly in cell G5. Now, let's switch over to Jason. And then let's click Find All. So we could find what Jason Wilson is, Jason, and so forth. Now I'm going to type in John Smith. And so we could find him as well. And here he is. And so that's the find feature in Excel. Now, if you press, let's see, Control H, it'll give you the replace option. So here we have John Smith, and let's replace him with Susan Larson. And so replace all. And so the John Smith that was here was replaced. This one is different because that one has line break. But for the one that doesn't, it's going to be replaced. So now let's replace Kelly Williams, or rather Kelly, with, let's say, Lauren. So replace all. So there was Kelly Williams here, but now we have a Lauren. And I'm surprised it didn't replace this one. That should have been replaced. But I guess it didn't find it. Let's see if we can replace Williams. In this case, it did replace Williams with Lauren. Let's try Mark with, let's replace Mark with Ron. So first, let's find all, and then replace all. There we go. So this time, we successfully replace Mark with Ron everywhere Mark showed up. So that's it for the find and the replace feature. Now, let's talk about making tables. So let's say if we want to make a table. Once you highlight the area that you want to convert into a table, you can press Ctrl T. And here is this create table box that shows up. And let's select this option. My table has headers. And so now we have a table. Now let's undo it. Now another way you can do it is by typing Ctrl L. For some reason it does the same thing. And so that's another way in which you can make a table using Ctrl L. Now what I want to do is make two different tables. Well, first let me insert a new row. So let's turn this into a table, Ctrl T, and then let's turn this into a table, Ctrl L. So now we have two different tables. If you type in Ctrl G, you can go to different tables. So if we select table 3, we can go to that one. Or if we hit Ctrl G again and table 4, we can go to the other table. And so Ctrl G allows you to switch from one table to another. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to press Ctrl and then semicolon. And by doing this, it's going to put the date in the cell that you highlight. Today's date is May 29th, 2018. And so that's how you can enter it into Excel, Control semicolon. Next, we have Control K. Pressing this opens up this box, Insert Hyperlink. And so I'll let you tinker with that, but if you want to get to it, Control K will get you there. Next, Control Space. Doing that will allow you to highlight the entire column. Now, let's say if we have some numbers. Let's delete this. So let's say we have the numbers 12, 17, 25, 9, and 14. Let's highlight these numbers. If you press Control Q, you'll have the option of formatting the numbers that you have in your column, or you can set up a chart. You can have a bar graph, a horizontal bar graph, a line graph, a pie chart, scatter chart, or you can go to totals and you could sum it up, take an average, count the numbers, take a percent, a running total, and so forth. Or you can go to tables, spark lines. And so if you press Control Q after you highlight a series of numbers, you can do a lot of these things. But in Excel 2016, which is what I'm using, you could just click this little button at the bottom right and it will take you to the same destination. So Control Q or pressing that button will have the same effect. Now here we have a new workbook, and something that you could do is you can press Control 1 and this will allow you to format the cell. You could change the font, you can make it bold, italic, you could change the size, you can turn it into a superscript. If you go back to Control 1, you can remove that, turn it into a subscript. And so there's a lot of things you can do when you're formatting the cell. You can align it. You could change the text direction, left to right, right to left. And there's a lot of things you can do. You can adjust the border, the fill, but typically you may have to adjust the number. So let's say if we wanted to turn it to a currency. And so we can say $156. Or if we go back to Control 1, you could change it to, let's say, a fraction or a text or scientific or percentage. And so you can adjust this however you want to. And so Control 1 allows you to format that particular cell. So this is basically a summary of most, not all, but most of the keyboard shortcuts that we went over in this video. As you can see, it's listed in alphabetical order. And first we have Control A, select all, Control B to make something bold, Control C, copy, Control E, flash fill, Control F if you want to find something, Control I to italicize something, Control N to make a new workbook, Control P to print your work, Control R, copy the cell on the left, Control S to save your work, Control T, insert table, Control U, underline something, Control V, paste, Control Y, redo, Control Z, undo, and so forth. So if you want to, feel free to take a picture of this. You can take a screenshot, print it, or if you want to, you can write it down or if anything, you can just always refer back to this video if you need to review some some keyboard shortcuts. And so that's basically it for this video. Hopefully you found it to be helpful, and feel free to check the description section of this video if you want to access my Excel video playlist, where you can find my other video tutorials on Excel. So thanks again for watching.